every profession has a step one. Every profession has basics. In craft, a lot of the times with young artists gets overlooked. Notice I did not say, find a manager and an agent. For what? You don't know how to do nothing. You don't know how to do nothing. You schmooze your way into an agent or a manager. You go off to a city that you can barely afford to live in, and then you get an opportunity that you are not prepared for.
Take it with a grain of salt, people.
You gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Take it with a grain of salt.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the very first episode of Take It With a Grain of Salt. I'm your host, Derek Moore. Who am I? To put it simple, I would consider myself a professional storyteller. I am not where I would like to be in this career, but I am very, very, very honored to say that I am supporting myself off of the arts. I'm able to make a living from acting, from editor, from filmmaker, director, writing. I've been able to sustain myself in all of those areas of storytelling. And I thought it would be a great time. The industry kind of shut down for a minute, had to, iron out some kinks and some logistics. But I looked at some of my formative years, some of my educational years when I was learning things, when I was just breaking into this new field. And there was just a lot of things that I felt like I could have done better. I could have not done. The mistakes that people made around me were pretty severe. And I just thought, what an opportunity to actually help the generation below me or behind me, kind of come into it armed and, a little bit more, have a little bit more ownership of the business. There's no secret that the entertainment industry is a little perverse, it's a little dirty, I would say. And I think a lot of that is due to just ignorance about certain things, no ownership of your own identity or your own brand. So I wanted to make this Take It With a Grain of Salt podcast. Now, let me tell you why I call it Take It With a Grain of Salt. There are multiple ways to make it into the industry. There are multiple ways to make any dream come true. But specifically, when we're talking about the entertainment industry, there's millions of doors. And because of technology and how time progressed, those doors have multiplied. What I've observed in my years, we as a lot of young artists kind of merge themselves into one doorway. What we're talking about here is building a career, right? I'm gonna tell you what this podcast ain't. This ain't no shortcut podcast, how to get in quick and da-da-da. I don't think I've tried some of these shortcuts, and they are actually, longer scenic routes to something that you should have learned the first time. Every shortcut, especially in this entertainment industry, will cost you quite a bit. Throughout my experiences, I've come across some very, very talented people in each sector of, the entertainment industry, from writing, filmmaking, blah, 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 acting, editor. And what is very clear, like I said, there are 100 ways to make it, but what is clear is that the greats actually put time into the craft. They have somewhat of a structure, which is a word that a lot of young artists run from, including myself. I meet a lot of young artists that feel like, it's art and, you should just be able to do it and people should just be able to accept it. That's a very, very ambitious idea, but this is a business, and you are creating something that you will either be a part of something or you will be creating something that has the potential to sell. And that's what I'm all about. What I'm offering with this podcast is structure. Things that I feel that are guaranteed when it comes to longevity in this. It's a long, for some of us, it's a long journey to trying to make this thing happen. But, please, as the title of this show encourages, take it all with a grain of salt. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But structure is the most important thing that I kind of want to emphasize when it comes to this. Inside of that structure are 3 tips that I feel like every young artist should know starting out. Every young artist. Now, before our storyteller or artist, I'll be using those words interchangeably. Now, before I go into the list, I want to start off by saying this. Your journey is your journey. We talked about at the top of this entertainment industry being like, there's more than one way to get in. So you have to understand that because there are multiple ways to get in, people gonna hit in different spots, right? People interests start to shift over time, which, opens up doors for them. You have to understand that someone's success doesn't mean your demise. I think that's very important for young artists because it gets a little cold at times. The phone doesn't ring and, some of your friends start moving and shaking and the green monster, as I like to call it, starts to, knock at the door. Beware of the green monster. I've been victim of the green monster myself. And, obviously what I mean by green monster is, jealousy, you being envious of your peers succeeding. So just before I go into that list, you just go into this understanding that your journey is specifically yours, and that's what would make your art specifically you, and that's what people will start to pay for. The more you learn, the more you grow, and blah, blah, blah. So the first thing that I feel like every young artist should know, every young artist should be building craft. These are the tools that you use to build the story. Any venture that you take as a career path, you have to learn the basics first. What do I mean by basics for entertainment industry? Learning your beats, your stakes, your objectives, learning script analysis, learning how to mine for clues inside of stories. Good stories always have clues on how to create a better character. That's for actors. For directors, understanding story as well, understanding script analysis as well, understanding the hero's journey, understanding understanding arcs and climax and resolution and rising incidents, and reading a lot, having a very strong grasp of history. Cinematographers, angles, learning the relationship between ISO and aperture, learning focus, learning what angles give off certain emotions, rule of thirds, 180 degree rule. There's basics in every craft, every profession has a step one. Every profession has basics. In craft, a lot of the times with young artists gets overlooked. Notice I did not say, find a manager and an agent. For what? You don't know how to do nothing. You don't know how to do nothing. You schmooze your way into an agent or a manager. You go off to a city that you can barely afford to live in, and then you get an opportunity that you are not prepared for. 2 things happen in those situations. You do great with the opportunity, and then you start to get typecast, right? Which is fine. If that's what you want to do, sure. There are hundreds of actors that make a living off that. It does get old, and if you consider yourself an artist, you want to start to move out and kind of cut your teeth on something different. The second thing that can happen is that you get the opportunity and then you blow it, and you don't really know how you got that one. Craft is there not to teach you how to, it's there for 2 reasons. Craft is there to enhance what you do naturally as an artist, give it a name, and it's to point out the weaknesses so you can strengthen those. That's the artistic side of it. From the financial standpoint, the economics of learning craft, it is how you, so I'll say this, every artist, every director, filmmaker, actor, blah, 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 editor, you're an independent contractor starting off, freelancing. You are representing the business of you and your services. Craft is how you build a consistent product. It gives you a process. That's what craft does. It gives names to things. It helps you develop a process that is bankable. So when someone hires you, You have a process. You have something that you can go back to consistently, that you can generate a service that is consistent, that is immaculate, and that is efficient as well. The more you work your craft, the more you find not shortcuts, but more efficient ways for you to do something. So there's an artistic way of looking at craft, and there's also a financial way of looking at craft. You cannot substitute. You can't hide that. The other things that it will tell you, listen, I'm gonna get a little real with y'all, a little raw with y'all. It also lets you know if this is what you want to do, right? Man, the amount of people that can just go on Instagram and type in actor, filmmaker in their bio without doing any of this craft work is, it's part of the reason why things are a little bit crowded, I would say. It's not until you start working on the craft, working on your weaknesses, where you really decide, hey man, I don't know if I really want to do this. Shit ain't easy, bro. It's not. It's a reason why it's just a reason why it takes a long time. It's not easy learning some of this shit. And you gotta know if this is a career, if this is career, meaning longevity, you gotta be on board with the failures of it. Learn how to take an L. I gotta be honest. Some of you young artists really shouldn't be, well, I'm not gonna say shouldn't be. Based on my experience, there is a sense of entitlement that is distracting, or that pulls focus from learning the craft. Whatever social stance that you want to take is fine, but it can't come secondary to learning the craft. No one's gonna hear you, whatever social stance that you have on the world right now. You're just in the fray if you don't really have a platform. The only way to build a platform is to develop some type of craft. People want to look at what you, or listen to what you have to say. And I think a lot of young artists have confused storytelling with social commentary, at least in the academia standpoint, or the academia setting. I think some of you guys might be better suited in other sectors, There are people that really take this seriously. It's frustrating. The level of entitlement that some of you young people, some of the young artists have now is it's astounding. You ain't done shit. And you walk in with what you feel like how things should go, man. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. And it's not an old way of thinking. It's professionalism. This ain't about you. And a lot of young people come in thinking that they've already arrived at a place that they ain't really worked for. And they want to tailor the room to them when there are other people that have their own issues and background and blah, blah, blah. This is a collaborative experience. And art, a lot of times, are some of the most diverse rooms. And some of these artists come in, some of these young cats come in with their perspective of the world and want everybody to adjust to them. And like, it ain't really earned that. If you gonna be that type of asshole where you are everybody cater to me, you should at least earn it. These motherfuckers don't even know nothing, and they walk in with that level of entitlement. That's what I'm saying. If you feel like you spend more time socializing about what's happening in the world versus perfecting your craft, I don't know. Maybe just do that full time, because you taking time away from people that actually really want to learn this. So yes, that really needed to be said. To summarize all of this, from an artistic standpoint, you are able to label things. You are able to have access to what you do naturally, and you are able to build your weaknesses. From an economic standpoint, you can build a process that is consistent, that gives you an efficient process. And thirdly, it just lets you know if this is what you want to do or not. The second thing that I would tell young artists to focus on when coming into the storytelling business is building your character. I don't know how long I'm gonna be on this. A lot of people will argue that this is more important than your craft. It depends on the situation, but I slightly lean in that favor of your character is, man, who you are is just important. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with some of these young artists with their level of entitlement. A lot of y'all artists, a lot of you young folks are assholes. And I don't mean just students. It goes for faculty as well, right? Or anybody that has to teach. The teachers and the students of this craft. Some of the professional people, some of the professional actors and the producers, man, a lot of this entertainment industry is just filled with assholes, bro, with dickheads. And none of these people took the time to really develop themselves. Maybe, the path was cushioned for them along the way. And they just felt like, well, things are handed to me and I don't really have to develop myself. It's just, and part of the reason why I want to create this thing is, the big goal is just, I want to potentially start hiring some of y'all. I want to hire y'all. I have a production company here in Houston, Texas. We are, in the future, very, 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 very serious about moving into the theater. But we make our own films, and I want to hire people that are that took care of the craft and they're good people. You can throw a rock and hit somebody with talent. Talent is abundant. What is not abundant is people that show up on time. What's not abundant is people that are kind and respectful to everyone in the process of either film, theater, or television. What's not common is people that show up prepared, knowing what they need to do. Someone that is coachable, that can take direction without feeling like it's a personal attack, which is its own craft. But those people are rare, and those people work a lot. It's so important. I've been in audition rooms as a reader where, man, I'm thinking about one story in particular where this chick came in and this chick came in and she slaughtered it, bro. She slaughtered the audition. She was the person that she came to audition for. I'm like, yep, that's it. You see way more people that suck than you do that are actually good. And she came in and you like, okay, you want somebody to come in that's good. You want somebody to come in good. And this chick could sing, she could dance. And when she finished her audition, her headshot resume went right into the trash. And the artistic director was like, I would love to hire her, but she's a pain in the ass. Just there's no situation to where being unfair and being mean to people pays off for you. Character also goes into the relationships you foster as well. My dad has a quote. You'll hear a lot of quotes that I'm gonna quote my dad a lot during this podcast, but the one that resonated with me, I remember being in college and he told me this, and he was like, he's a jazz musician. He plays the saxophone. So a lot of his pep talks are very allegorical. And one of the things that he said was, son, an A flat is an A flat, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. The more notes you add, the harder it is to make harmony. The translation of that is the more people you add in your life, the harder it is to find synergy amongst you guys. So if you're going to add people into your life, you want to make sure that you guys are equally yoked. You guys have a vision that you share. That's very important. And if you have people in your circle that aren't equally yoked to you, it's going to reflect your character. I'm talking to my men on this one. As beautiful as women are, and as much as we need them, they're distractions. When you find something that you love, and I remember when I first walked into the storytelling business, when I walked into the theater, that was my focus. I had my fun, for sure. But any woman that encroached on the focus of what I was trying to get better at, I had to get rid of them. And I think a lot of young men, allow that thing to kind of pull them away from what's important. On top of that, they also can ruin you, right? The craft building standpoint, they're distractions. The finish line standpoint, when you actually done the craft and you actually starting to gig and work, they can take everything from you. They have strength, and they don't have to beat your ass. They will crumble your empire. And you have to be aware of that. Like I said, have your fun, protect yourself. That always don't mean go out smashing everything, but you have to understand the damage that women can do to you. A lot of, and rightfully so. Some of you niggas out there need a little damage done to you, man. Y'all be out here running rampant. And then wonder why some of these women crazy. And these chicks, they off the chain, man. Some of the mentality nowadays is crazy, but I can't look at what is happening between men and women today and look at the women and be like, all right, how they are right now is just, we ain't got no responsibility in what women have turned into. We play a part in that. And a lot of it is our fucking inability to discipline ourselves, right? And it's a journey. Every young man go through it. And as I'm talking right now, I know probably some of you niggas is in a situation right now. It happens. But what I'm offering is that you, at least at the very least, have an awareness of the people, the women that you bring into your life, right? And at some point, you're gonna have to choose. It's either them or getting better at what you say you love to do. The final thing that I think young artists should be doing when they come into the entertainment industry, no matter where you at, no matter what level, is you always should have the goal of creating for yourself. At this point where technology is today, it is non-fucking negotiable to not be trying to find a way to create your own opportunities. Cameras are cheaper and better. You know what I mean? And it seems to be the direction that the entertainment industry is shifting in anyway, at least on the content creation side, right? A lot of these people are booking commercials, getting brand deals. Just imagine an actor with training that has a following that can book a film that will bring 20,000, 50,000 plus eyes to it, right? That's the shift. That's, in my opinion, that's a part of the shift. You should always be creating for yourself. The benefit of creating for yourself is, yes, it's for you. You're learning every aspect of what it takes to put a story together. But also, in that process, you start to diversify your income, right? So the artistic side of it is, me learning how, I'm talking about myself, me learning how to pick up a camera and how to do some lighting and how to work with sound and how to edit. Those skills became like springboards to get income in different places, right? So when one place is not yielding any fruit, I can just hop on over to the next one. I spoke earlier about the strike. I wasn't doing no acting work during the strike. I was blessed enough to be able to, direct and shoot and edit a documentary. And I was able to pay my bills doing that. Before the documentary, I was able to do some videography, and I was also able to edit a short film, and I did some commercial work for friends. Learning what goes into the thing that you are passionate about is a way for you to just, like I said, diversify your income. I haven't stopped wanting to become an actor, but now I've given myself an opportunity. I've created things that I can give other people opportunity as well, which is my goal as a production company owner, is to put people in a room that I feel that have taken care of the craft, that have taken care of their character, that have good character, that have a strong moral compass and all of that stuff, that don't mind collabing, creating. This is a long journey, bro. Like I said, 10 years. I've been at this at a decade. About a decade. I started when I was 20. I'm 30. And there's been moments, there's been up and downs, But I'm able to stay around. If you don't want to do the waiter or the service job thing, and you can make, people make pretty good money. Bartenders make really good money. So much so that you look at acting like, I don't know, I think I could probably just do this. If that's not your ministry, definitely wasn't mine. Definitely did not want to. I don't like being told what to do. I don't like working for other people in that respect. I want to do what I want to do, which was a lot of the reason why I started my production company. You got to find ways to be available. And for me, creating my own opportunities was a way for me to be available. Look, you're signing up to be a storyteller. I don't think a lot of people understand how impactful good stories are. I remember doing a show in Spring Green, Wisconsin. It was a show called The Brother Size by Terrell Evan McCraney. And anybody that knows that show knows that language is full. It's not nigga shit, but the language is very colorful. It's a story about a young man that comes out of jail that tries to get his life on the straight and narrow. And he's being pulled in two opposite directions. His brother's trying to keep him on the straight and narrow, and then he has this friend that wants to pull him back into the life of debauchery, so to speak. And I'm doing this story in Spring Green, Wisconsin, lily white Midwest. And I remember after a show, I remember coming to outside in the lobby, and there was this middle-aged white guy, very corporate, khaki pants, the Docker shoes and the checkerboard shirt. And I remember coming outside, and one of the homies was like, yo, hey, they really taking this hard. And this happened a few times during this process, but this is the first one that I witnessed. And he was like, it's a dude out there really taking the ending of this show hard, because it is. It's Terrell McCraney did his thing with The Brother Size, and the ending it tears your heart out, bro. And this gentleman was having a rough time kind of coping with what happened. And they pointed him out, and I see him maybe, a few yards away, and he's beet red. And I was like, damn, he is taking it hard. So he goes to walk off, and then after a couple seconds, he's starting to make his way back to the theater. And the cast is right there at the door that he's walking through, right? And he gets to the door, and he says, man, it's a wonderful show. He's fighting through the tears. I mean, like I said, he is cherry red at this point. He's fighting through the tears, He's trying to hold himself together. Man, it was a great show. I really appreciate it. He shook all our hands, and he couldn't finish speaking. He had to, he left something in the theater, so he had to walk off. My soft ass, I walked into the theater. I was like, hey, yo, my man, you need a hug, bro? And when I hugged him, he just released all his body weight into my arms. He thanked me a few times, and he said this, reminded him of a relationship with his brother, and that's sort of the catalyst I want to touch on right there. That part right there. That's the power of storytelling. I'm a nigga from St. Louis. The story is about some niggas from Louisiana, right? The story was so good that this story about some niggas from Louisiana, about very, very, specific cultural themes within the Black community. This man was able to sift through all that and see a story about brothers. And it impacted him in such a way where he was fighting his own emotions. That is the power of storytelling, man. That same story had a bunch of white people outside the theater talking about how they were the problem. They were saying it out of their own mouths. Man, we're the problem, because it deals with systemic racism as well in the prison system. That is why these people get paid what they get paid to tell the story. Because you have the ability to shape a community. You can go all the way back to Shakespeare when he was doing the histrionics, the Henrys. A lot of that stuff, that's not fiction. Or is it nonfiction? I can't really tell the difference. He was telling stories of the time. He was dealing with the politics of the time. And people were reactive to that. And for my black folks, for my brown skinned twins, you have a huge responsibility to tell stories that shift the narrative. Not for white people to see us differently, but for us to look at each other differently. We have history at our fingertips that has not been told before and has not been packaged in a way that is truthful, that is by us, and that displays the beauty of our culture. For a very long time, black folks in cinema have been niched. What an empowerment it is to have this history partnered with the structure to tell it properly. That is the responsibility of storytelling. You have the power to shape an entire community. And that's inspiration. That's what inspiration is. Nip has a quote that he quoted, that the highest human act is to inspire. Inspiration is so powerful because it requires very little work on your part. Inspiration is all within the person that receives it. When you receive inspiration, you are making a conscious decision to change something. That's why craft and character and creating are so important. Take this with a grain of salt. I believe it's like 4 to 5 years. And I'm being generous for 4 to 5 years. I think it takes 4 to 5 years to properly train an artist. Me and my dad was talking about boxers and how some of these young boxers, the Devin Haney and the Lomachenko fight, right? If anybody saw that fight, Lomachenko won, bro. Lomachenko won that fight. Y'all can get out of my comments with Devin Haney, and I'm a huge Devin Haney fan. I've been watching Devin Haney when he was like 18 going over to Mexico to fight. But he fought Lomachenko and he wasn't ready for that fight. He was not ready for that fight. It takes years to develop a fighter. Not their technique. Their technique as well. The technique is the first thing that happens. It takes a while to develop that technique. But there's also a mental development as well. When you fighting on an undercard, or you fighting on when you fighting pay-per-view, a main card fight like that, doing 24/7, the Showtime series, like all the media stuff that goes behind the main event fights. It takes time to get somebody to develop, and that fucks with your fight. That fucks with the fight. And it's the same thing with artists. Right? You have to learn what a beat is, and you have to learn how to properly scan text and do script analysis. And that takes a couple shows to actually understand what that is. If you do the theater route or do the short film right, it takes a while to learn those things. Now you're doing it. But you're doing the definition. So it takes some time to figure out how this stuff sits on you. And then once you have gone through the gauntlet in the fire hose of, artist academia, you got to find a way to get back to what you were doing naturally with trusting that the stuff that you learned will be there for you. You can't go into a show, okay, I'm doing my stakes. You're out of there. You're not in the moment. You're out the moment. You ain't gonna make no money that way. It's no shortcut, man. It takes time. And a lot of people, like I said, throw actor up in their bio without actually doing none of the craft work. Thank you guys so much for watching the first episode of Take It With a Grain of Salt. I'm your host, Derek Moore. Tune in next week. We are going to roll up our sleeves, and I'm actually start giving the first actual class, giving texts, some of the books that I feel that are very important to read, some of the some of the craft points, some of the character points that I feel that are very important, in some of the ways that you can start creating for yourself today. If you found any of this information useful, just make sure you hit that like and subscribe, that notification bell, so you know when the next episode is dropped. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.